In my last video, I talked about the different types of networks that can be used in a smart home, and one of the things I mentioned that can take your home network to the next level was Ubiquiti equipment. Ubiquiti primarily makes networking devices, but they also make a ton of other stuff, and some of the questions people ask me is what to choose and where to start. One of the best devices you can buy to get up and running quickly is a cloud gateway. There are a variety of options, but in this video we'll go over what is, in my opinion, probably the best bang for your buck when it comes to setting up a robust smart home network, and that's the Ubiquiti Dream Machine Pro. My name is Steve, and this is it-alchemy. In earlier years, Ubiquiti started out with networking devices which were configured and controlled by a central application. This is known as software-defined networking. These were kind of split between their wired and wireless products, and there were different applications that you had to download and install on your own hardware or mobile device in order to run. Since then, they have consolidated the network application and added additional applications for other device platforms. Later on, Ubiquiti came out with their Cloud Gateway product line. These are something like a cloud console that has the control application built in. More recently, but more than a few years now, they developed the Dream Machine, which also consolidates all of the control applications into a single appliance. The UDM Pro that I have here functions as a cloud gateway, but it's also a router, a PoE-capable switch, a network video recorder, and most of all, a control plane for controlling all of the Ubiquiti platforms. It has a built-in stateful firewall with Layer 7 support for applications, VPN functionality, and many other advanced networking features. It's quite a bit more than the typical Wi-Fi router you'll find in most homes. So let's get this thing set up. The UDM Pro is a 1U rack-mountable device. You can install it in your equipment rack if you have one, but depending on your setup, it may be easier to sit it down somewhere with a laptop for the initial setup. Regardless of which you choose, you'll want it somewhere close enough to your switch or router so that you can connect it to the internet. It's very likely that the version of software that's on the device needs to be updated, so you'll want to connect it to the internet so it can update. So first, we'll plug an Ethernet cable from our laptop into one of the LAN ports. Doesn't really matter which you use, any port 1 through 8 should be fine. I'll plug it into port 8 here. Next, you'll want to plug another Ethernet cable into the WAN port, which is port 9. That'll be our uplink to the internet. If you don't have a network switch already set up, you can plug this into your router if it has a built-in switch, or directly into your modem if need be, just so long as you provide the UDM Pro with an internet connection. Lastly, we'll plug in power to the device and it should turn on. You'll probably notice that there's no power switch. Like most professional devices, the UDM Pro is meant to always be powered on. When the device is first powered on, it'll go through a boot process and then probably update itself. This is indicated on the LCD panel. Give it a few minutes to update. Once the updates are complete, hop on the computer we connected to the LAN port. The UDM Pro has a built-in DHCP server, so my laptop here should have gotten an IP address. We can open a command prompt and type in ipconfig to verify, and we see that we've gotten an address, 192.168.0. whatever. We can also see the gateway address here is 192.168.0.1. That will be the IP address that we access the Dream Machine at. So next, we'll open a web browser and enter that gateway address, which will be https://192.168.0.1, and it'll take us to the first time setup. The first thing the setup will ask us is to give it a name. We'll leave this default. This is not a host name, just a label, so name it whatever you like and click next. And then it will ask you to create an account. By default, it'll want to use a UI account. A UI account is an account used to access the Ubiquiti cloud services. If you already have one, click the sign in button and enter your credentials, and if you don't have one and would like to create one, enter an email address and a username and password. This will tie this specific Dream Machine with your UI account. What this does is give you access to additional features such as remote management, multi-factor authentication, notifications, cloud backup, their teleport, and Site Magic VPN. There's no subscription for these services, and it's completely free. If you use a UI account, authentication will occur in the cloud, and while most of the functions of the UDM Pro will still work, you may not be able to administer the device if you lose access to your UI account. If you don't want to tie the device to the cloud services, click on this link here and proceed with a local-only account. For now, we'll use a local-only account. I'll add a password, and hit next, and we'll start performing an internet speed test. It does this because the device will monitor your internet speed in order of slowdowns and outages. You can let that run, or you can hit skip and manually enter in your speed. Once that's complete, the setup will continue, and when it finishes, click on Go to Dashboard. You may have additional updates that the device will do, in which case wait for it to finish up with those and then just refresh the screen. If it does do that, it'll go back to the login page, in which case it'll ask you to enter in the password that we set up. So as you can see, my UDM Pro did do a second update, so it did have a reboot. When I hit refresh, it brings us back to the login page, in which case we'll just log in with the credential that we created earlier. Now, when we first log in, you can see that we land on the dashboard page. For most purposes, this is where you're going to spend the majority of your time. This gives you an at-a-glance view of everything that's going on within your network currently. Right now, we see that we have our UDM Pro. We have all of the network traffic that's going across. We have all of the devices and services that I'm talking to right now with just my laptop connected to it. Now you'll notice that since we did that speed test, the UDM Pro mentions that I have ISP packet loss detected. I'm aware of that. My cable modem router is pretty old and needs to be replaced, so that's probably what that's from. But just to go through some of the menus here, by default we land on the dashboard, and again, this is where you're going to see most of your statistics. Next down we have our topology. Since we are connected to the UDM Pro, which is connected to a switch, which is connected to my cable modem, and then ultimately out to my ISP, we get a nice little topology view of your ISP, then the UDM Pro, then whatever client you happen to be connected to. As you add more Ubiquiti devices, you're going to have a lot more topology branching out in there, but right now we have a pretty basic setup. Next, on the Devices tab, we see that we only have a single device, the UDM Pro. I do have a Ubiquiti 24-port switch connected to my router. I have some access points and some cameras and a few other things. Those are already adopted with a separate instance of UniFi, so the discovery protocol that they use isn't going to show up on here. The only way to re-add those into the UDM Pro would be to do a hard reset, a factory reset on those devices. And then the discovery protocol will see those devices and you can adopt them from the menu here. Next tab, we have our client devices. You can see my laptop here. It's pretty good at device discovery, so whatever you happen to connect to it, be it a laptop, a mobile phone, or a desktop PC, Mac, whatever, it will show up here and it'll show it as a client that's connected directly to the UDM Pro. Next up, we have the ports section. The ports section shows all of the live ports that we have a physical cable plugged into. It also shows what devices are connected to that. So you can see on port 9 here, our WAN port, that's where it's plugged into the cable modem and out to the ISP. Port 8 is where we plugged in our laptop. If we had any other devices plugged in there, it'll also show those as well. You'll notice that by default, it has one single native VLAN on there. That's because we just provision the device, so there's only one single VLAN, one single network that all of the devices share. Everything can talk to it one another on that same default VLAN. But in the next video, we'll get into the specifics of creating new networks, using some of the security features, the firewall. We'll create some new VLANs, and we can actually assign different VLANs to different ports. Additionally, you can configure the speed of the ports, and you can also configure whether or not those ports are providing PoE and what version of the PoE, depending on what the device is capable of. Something that's a little bit newer in this version of the UniFi OS is this Insights tab. This Insight tab actually analyzes all of the traffic that's going across your UDM Pro. Remember, I said it functions as a switch, but also as a router. So as you get more clients in your network, more devices connected to this thing, it's going to start analyzing the traffic data, and it's going to show where your high bandwidth consumers are, what they're visiting, that type of thing. And it's really a good way to keep an eye on your network to figure out if there's anything funny going on. Maybe you have devices that are trying to talk out to the internet that you're not aware of, or maybe you have, you know, a spouse or kids that are going to sites that they shouldn't be going to, and that'll give you insight into what they're up to, and you can take steps to remedy that. There's another tab on here that's next to traffic, is the viewer. That shows what services each of your devices are connected to. So right now we have the default network that we have, plus we have the internet. We also have VPN servers and site-to-site clients that we can set up here, and we can view which devices are connected in through those services. Another interesting thing in this Insights tab is there's a geolocation feature in here. And what that does is that shows you where your traffic is coming and going to. So we're in Alaska, so we're going to see that most of our traffic is coming to and from Alaska, but it's useful for example, if you have devices that are trying to reach out to, say, you know, some crazy server in China, or maybe you have a virus on one of your mobile devices or one of your laptops or computers that you don't know about, and you see it pinging, you know, some server in Belarus or something, you can take steps to fix that. Next up, we have our settings. I'll go into settings here. One of the things that I wanted to point out here that's a little bit different with the newer versions of the Unify OS, you can see we're on Unify OS 4.2.12 now. I'm not exactly sure what version specifically they switched it, but there used to be the control plane available on the dashboard where you can manage the other Unify applications for the rest of the platform. They've since split that out and moved it. So if you go into the settings here, that's under the UDM Pro settings. You can click on the control plane. On the control plane, we can see the versions of the applications that are installed on the console here. You can see the Unify OS, which is what runs the console itself, as well as the network application. That's the thing that updated when we first started it. You have the Protect application, which manages your security cameras and sensors. You have Access, which is your door access, your doorbells, your chimes. You have Talk, which is your IP telephony. You have Connect, which is digital signage. And then you have Interspace, which is a newer application that allows you to put a floor plan of your building or home up into the application, and you can actually place where your cameras and where your network runs and all kinds of things are. It's actually pretty neat. We also have integrations, which we're not really going to get into, but that's how you would talk to the web API and be able to pull data out of it. Next up, we have backups, where you can view and restore your system backups. This is very, very important if you're going to be testing out something and don't want to completely bork your setup. You can create a backup of it and restore that if something doesn't work. Storage, the UDM Pro has a single 3.5-inch HDD slot that is used as storage for your network video recorder. I don't have one installed in here right now, but that's where you would be able to view that. The console is referring to the actual device itself. You have the ability to change the name. You can change the time zone. Ubiquiti is pretty good at matching your time zone, even though I'm not actually in Anchorage. It's the same time zone, so that's pretty accurate. You can control the screen brightness. You can set up email services if you have your own mail server, you know, to get notifications if something happens with your devices that are connected to your network. You can get notified via email. You can download a support file if you ever have to contact Ubiquiti support. It's very important that you have the ability to do that, because that's going to take all the system logs and what's going on with your device and allow them to dig through that and find out what's actually the issue with your device. Under the advanced settings here, you can set up your remote access. You can also set up SSH access if you want to SSH into the console. Additionally, you can restart, shut down, factory reset the device itself from this screen as well. Next up, we have your user management. Right now, we only have a single admin. It's a local admin. But here's where you'll be able to create additional admins or set up roles. You can manage additional users, and you can also set up the identity endpoint if you want to use Ubiquiti's identity services. Those are primarily for one-click VPN connections through a mobile app or authentication through the mobile app to a wireless network that you might have set up. And it's also used for door access, directories, IP telephony, and that type of thing. It's probably a little more advanced than most people are going to be running in their house with a small family, but it's there if you need it. Next up, we can go into the System tab here. That's your standard country, region, and language under the General section. Integrations is if you want to connect that to other services. SNMP if you have monitoring services, or the Wi-Fi Man mobile app. Backups is where the backups are configured. Right now, by default, it's set to auto backup, and that's set for monthly. You can reschedule that. You can set that to be monthly, weekly, daily, on the first, on every Sunday, whatever you like. You can also create manual backups as well. If you take it off auto, please remember to regularly go in and update the Unify OS. They're pretty frequent about pushing Unify OS updates, as well as the individual network and protect and access updates. And you don't want to be caught with an out-of-date software if there's, say, a zero-day exploit or some other thing that's going around. And then under the advanced tab, this is where you configure how everything kind of looks and feels. You can configure your data retention, what we saw earlier on the dashboard where it automatically identified which devices and what they were talking to. That's what the device identification does. Same thing with the traffic identification. This is also where you'll go to force check updates for new device firmware. Even the Ubiquiti switches and access points and cameras, etc., have their own firmware that's installed on it, and you can force check updates from here as well, because the UDM Pro is going to manage all of that for you. The last thing that we'll take a look at is the system log. This is another place where you'll probably be spending a lot of time if you're running into trouble. The UDM Pro will log events from itself, but also all of the connected devices if there's issues with them. So right now we have one unresolved event, which was shown on the dashboard. My ISP was experiencing packet loss. If it detects those types of issues, it's going to pop up in the log here and categorize it, depending on how important it thinks it is. It thinks that my crappy cable modem dropping packets is a critical issue, which it is, and I'll replace that at some point. Additionally, you can go in and view activity if you have more than one user that's connected to your console, and you can see what they're doing and where they're coming from. This is particularly useful if you're going to be deploying your UDM Pro at a remote site. So like, say if you have a property somewhere, maybe an Airbnb or some other thing where you have one of these deployed, you can see who's actually accessing it. It'll also show whether or not it's updated, the Unify OS or any of the platform applications. It'll show which clients have connected to it. If there's any VPN set up, it'll show VPN activity. And lastly, on the settings tab here, you can set up push notifications related to your Unify network setup, and those push notifications can be set up as alerts in the application itself, or if you have a third party set up via the API, or if you have the email service set up, you can get emails notified for these things. So if for whatever reason your internet goes down and it switches over to your backup internet, or if you have backup power in your rack and it loses primary power, DNS server issues, switch issues, Wi-Fi issues, any weird activity, it can notify you of all those things. So it's very, very robust in the notifications that it can do. There's some other menus and some tabs here, but I won't go into those in any detail. Except for identity, they're pretty self-explanatory, and I'll go into more in-depth on those in a later video, so feel free to explore and look around yourself. So now we have a Ubiquiti Dream Machine Pro set up and connected to the internet. It runs DHCP by default, so you can plug any device into one of the LAN ports, then it'll get a DHCP address and should also be able to connect that to the internet if you have it connected to your switch or router. As always, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Stay tuned for part 2 of this series where we'll get into the network application and set up wireless, configure some VLANs, and go over the firewall and other security features. Thanks for watching.